Not gonna lie, I'm actually super impressed by how well this turned out. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, gonna be doing something kind of different, and that I think is fun because I was kind of thinking of, how far back basically could I go with saying like that I've read a book that came out in this year. Now, obviously, for things recently, or like if you're me and you've read a ton of '90s fantasy, sounds like that's pretty easy. But like the further you go back, I wondered how far I could go. And so I started with, I ended up determining I'd go back to 1964 and try to see if I have read and or owned a book every year since then. Now, what I'm going to specify is I'm talking about original publication date, not publication date of whatever version I actually have. And so some of these, and I tried to double check because I was using my list of books that includes publication date, but it's of the specific version I have. So some of them might be like off a year, but I tried to get these pretty well right. So hopefully they are, because I double checked. And I started going through because I'm like, okay, I have plenty of longer series that were published over many years, and so I could fill in a lot there. But then once again, there were some gaps. But honestly, this turned out pretty well. So we're gonna go through and talk about if I can do this. So I would love to see if you want to steal this and give this a shot. I'd love to see other people do this and just what books you have, what years you seem to struggle with, and also what year or years you think seem like they're some of the best, because there were some really interesting things here with looking. So with no further ado, let's jump in. So I said I started with 1964. Now, I did that specifically because of the Prydain Chronicles by Lloyd Alexander. So this is a bind-up, which is actually also a bit older. Like this was, I'm trying to remember when this was published. I'm already getting off topic, which I shouldn't. So this specific version, it looks like it was published in, I think, 73, maybe. So it's, I mean, it was old. It doesn't look quite that old. I don't know. Anyway, but this was a great one to start with because there are 5 books in the series, which are the Book of Three, The Black Cauldron, The Castle of Lear, Terran Wanderer, and The High King. And they were originally published in 1964, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in that order. So that was a really great place to start because I get 5 books, 5 years worth of them, and we're already 1/12 of our way through our about 60 years of books. So it worked out pretty well. So from here then, I was taking a look, and I will say, it was some of these older years where there's only 2 years out of the 60, spoiler I guess, that I don't own a book that was originally published, but I have not read all of them, so I did run into that as well. And 1969 is one that I have not read, which is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, which I never think about how old this is, but granted, this is a 50th anniversary edition, so it would have come out in 2019, this particular one, so makes sense. But this is actually one that I'm hoping to read. I've heard really conflicting mixed things on Le Guin as well, but she'll definitely make some other appearances here because there are several years where her stuff is something that I have that works. So that one I haven't read yet. And then for 1970, I had not read any of the Amber Chronicles by Roger Zelazny. There are, I think, 10 of these, though. And the first one, I believe, is 9 Princes in Amber. And that was originally published in 1970. I think that's the first one. Yep, that is the first one. So that was as well. Along with, there's going to be a lot of cuts in this video as I get books. I didn't get everything out because it was way too many things to get out. But the original collections, Swords Against Death, Swords and Deviltry by Fritz Leiber. The short stories from these are from various times, but these collections were originally in 1970 as well, so that also fit in there as well. And then for 1971, went back to one that I have read, which is in Earthsea, which is the Tombs of Adawan, and that's the second Earthsea book, and so I have read actually not all of these yet, so I tried to use just the ones that I've read, but that one fits us for 1971. 1972, actually, The Farthest Shore in here, which I have read, fits in there, but also, almost lost a book, Elric of Melnibourne was originally published, not this is a collection. But the original Elric of Neldamorn was 1972. So there is that one. For 1973, another one where, gosh, it's weird to think, I never think about how old this is, but The Princess Bride, originally published in 1973. So this is, I love this version of it, this coffee table book kind here. But yeah, so that was 1973, and I have read as well. So 74 and 75 are the years I don't have anything, I don't own a book here. There were some different options, but for 74, I just went with one of the first ones that came up, because obviously it's very popular, which is Carrie by Stephen King, which I've not read and probably won't read. Not a huge King fan, but popular book, so that would be one that would work here. And then for 75, a book that I do intend to read, but I have not yet, is Shogun. And so this was originally 1975. I did, however, as I was looking and searching to see if I had any books, I did see this one come up as being published in 75, which is Mind Wizards of Callisto. And I kind of want to read this book and or the series that it's from just for this cover, because this was kind of nuts. So that was fun though. But yeah, I've not read that. So those are the only two though I actually don't have physical things. There were some other years that I looked up that I found things, but then later was able to figure out something that I do have physically. So for 1976, then, we're moving back to Amber with The Hand of Oberon, which I'm not sure which number that is, but that is in this bind-up that I have of the books of Amber. And then we get a little bit easier here for a bit. So moving into 77. So I have, which these editions are nearly this old, I think. But Thomas Covenant, the first trilogy, Lord Thalsbane, The Ill-Earth War, and The Power That Preserves, respectively, were 77, 78, and 79. And so that fit in really, really well. Yeah, these actual editions are rather old as well. So this is, 70, this does actually say 77. So this might be one of the, oh, you know what, this actually, I think this is published right around, it might be, it's not a first edition, so I don't know. It must not have been actually 77 that this was published, but it doesn't say, and I'm going to stop looking because we have plenty of other things to go through. But so these get us through those 3 years there. And then we have 80 and 81. And so I will note that I didn't realize it was so close originally, but The Wounded Land is book 2 of the second trilogy, and this came out in 1980. So yeah, I didn't realize those were published so close together. But for 80 and 81, we have Book of the New Sun. This is Shadow of the Torturer and The Claw of the Conciliator are both in this volume. Those were 80 and 81, so fit us in here for that one. Then moving on to where are we? 1982. I actually had 2 books that were 82, which included Magician, originally published in 1982 in its single form, and also, there you're hiding, Sorcerer's Legacy by J.D. Wirtz, also 1982. So I had a couple there as well. So I told you, this gets a lot easier. Once we get a little bit further, I'm like, I'm good. I have a lot of these. And then 1983 includes, which I actually realized, oh my gosh, I put this down. I don't think I physically own a copy of The Color of Magic anymore. So crap. I've read it, but I don't own a physical copy. Thankfully, I wrote down a backup, which is White Gold Wielder, which is also Second Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. I have not read this one yet, though. I have read The Color of Magic. It's just not one that I'm going to reread, so I don't have a copy anymore. Then 1984 gets us into Storm Warden, the first book of Cycle of Fire by J.D. Wirtz, which I do have that and have read. Also, fun fact, I wrote some of these, I just wrote other fun ones that were coming out. Legend by David Gemmell. The first Draenei book was originally 84 as well. So that was a good one. And then we have, oh, it's down here. Where is it? It's hiding from me. There it is. In 1985, we have Dragon's Bane by Barbara Hamley, which is really solid. a really kind of unique and interesting book, considering the fact that it's published in '85 and is fresher than some stuff that I've read much after then. But yeah, so that's a good one as well. I'm seeing a couple books now. I'm wondering what year you came out, but I think they were years that were later that I didn't need. But '86 then, The Light Fantastic, which I also don't have a copy of anymore. But also Silverthorn, the second book in the original Rift War books. So that's one I do have. In 1987, Darkness at Sethanon Works. They just keep going with that series. Although, '87 is also when Equal Rights came out. Discworld was one of those big series that was really easy to fill in some gaps, especially since I've read most of the older ones that came out in the halfway through. So Equal Rights is also one that fits for that year as well. 1988, which we're getting really close to some great years, but 1988 is The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. Gosh, love the original artwork here too. And so, great book here. But also is when books 2 and 3 of Cycle of Fire came out, Keeper of the Keys and Shadowfang, which, speaking of art, I didn't show that super closely, but love. The individual covers for these books are fantastic, but I really like this combo cover that was done for the omnibus as well. So really, really good. But so both of those, that's a pretty good year. We're not getting quite to where I'm talking about, where like the years are like, so good. So that's that. Then 1989, we're going back to Discworld with... Do you see now why I didn't get these all out? Guards in '89 will get us through, which I have, of course, also read. Now, 1990. 1990 is the first year that has some argument for possibly being one of the greatest years, because in 1990, books that came out include The Eye of the World, originally published in 1990. The Stone of Farewell, also, which one of my favorite covers. Absolutely love the art here. Stone of Farewell came out in 1990, and that's not all. We also had Good Omens came out in 1990, which is a fantastic, although very, very different book. Another one that I don't think about being that old, but I always forget how old some of the Discworld books are, too, because you read them and they just feel so incredibly current for the most part. But so those are 1990. Some really, really great options for there. So that's kind of the first one. Then from here, Wheel of Time made it really easy, really, really easy to pick a lot of these as I needed. So in 91 is The Dragon Reborn, which I suppose I can get out. I probably won't get all my Wheel of Time books out because there's a lot of these on here. But Dragon Reborn fit, but also something I just recently read that I did not grab that I should have. Don't mind me being off camera. The Magic of Recluse also was in 91. So a couple of good ones there. And then, yeah, we've got 92. 92 has The Shadow Rising, which is a lot of people, this is one of their favorites. Really good Wheel of Time book for sure. Also, going back to Discworld, since it was really easy to find, Discworld, Small Gods, same year as well. So that's a good one. But now we are in 1993, which 93 is, I think, this has a really fantastic argument for being the best, one of the best years, at least for what I have. So 93, we have The Fires of Heaven, which is an excellent Wheel of Time book. I feel like it's tough because Shadow Rising and Lord of Chaos are before and after, and those are great. We have The Shadow Rising. We also have Curse of the Mistwraith, the first book in the Wars of Light and Shadow. Also one that we'll be seeing a lot more of as we go along as well. So that series started. Wheel of Time was going. And 2 Green Angel Tower came out, the conclusion to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. So we've got, you know, probably my top 3 series of all time all had books released in 1993. So, yeah, for me, 93 might be the cream of the crop. So let me know your thoughts on 93 or if you have another one there. But definitely a good one there. So 94, we have Lord of Chaos, which I just mentioned, another Wheel of Time book. And also, is that here? It's a mass market paperback. I know I have the book, but where? Oh, there it is. I found it. Elminster, The Making of a Mage. So I'll just show you this instead of getting out another Wheel of Time book. You guys know what Wheel of Time books look like by now, I'm sure, so it's all good. So that was that year. And then 95, also a really, really strong year, because 95, we have Ships of Narrier, which, where I really, really fell in love with the series. Also love the art. But we also had Assassin's Apprentice, originally published this year as well. So, Hob, Rebel Yellow Links, another series that I absolutely love, getting going as well. And then 96, it's really too bad that, see, if there would have been, if we would have had a Wheel of Time book there, that might be in the argument as well. 96, though, we have Crown of Swords and Royal Assassin as well. So another good one here. You can see now why series make this much, much easier. 97's a pretty good year as well. We get Assassin's Quest there, and we get Fugitive Prince. So more Hob and more Janie Wirtz. But we also get King's Dragon by Kate Elliott was published that year as well. So starting another series that's definitely in my top 10 here. And in 1998, we've got The Path of Daggers. We've got Prince of Dogs. And then that is the time that we have Live Ship starting. So also we had Ship of Magic in that year as well. I put more options for 90s because I already knew that like so many of my favorites are from the 90s. But when you really, really look at the 90s, I mean, so much good stuff. And granted, like, you know, Memory Star and Throne started in the late 80s, but a lot of stuff that I love in the 90s for sure. So in 99 we're on now. 99, we had The Burning Stone, Book 3 in Crown of Stars, and Mad Ship, Book 2 of Live Ship Traders. Then we get to 2000. Now 2000 is another pretty great year. We've got Winter's Heart, I'm Not Gonna Grant, which is not a favorite. If it was a stronger Wheel of Time book, this might be in contention. But we have that, and then we have Grand Conspiracy in Words of Light and Shadow out that year as well. And we have Ship of Destiny, the conclusion to the Live Ship Traders, which was my favorite book of the Live Ship Traders. And we have Child of Flame, Book 4 of Crown of Stars, which was my favorite book of Crown of Stars. Even though the last 3 are excellent, I just, for reasons that I can't say without spoilers, I love that book. So, really strong year 2000 as well. And let's see what we got. So 2001, we have Fool's Errand. It looks like I have Grand Conspiracy listed for 2000 and 2001, so I have multiple options. So it's one of the two. But we have Fool's Errand, originally published for 2001. 2002, and this is where I started throwing in Malazan when I needed them too, because we do have a House of Chains, 2002. Malazan is also one that I feel like had been out longer than it was, but it wasn't actually, so which is interesting. And To Ride Hell's Chasm, 2002 as well. It's also crazy thinking about the fact here that we're going 20 plus years ago still at this point, but how many of my favorite series were also being published around the same time is also something really interesting to think about, which I don't really think about. But there's so many things here where I've got books and series that I absolutely love going on here as well. Oh, and also 2002 was Golden Fool, so continuing on there as well. So 2003, we have Crossroads of Twilight, which, the worst Wheel of Time book, so not super strong there. We do have The Gathering Storm, the Kate Elliott one, not the Robert Jordan one, came out as well. And Fool's Fate, which is probably my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite Realm of the Elderlings book, I'd have to say. So that, at least, still really strong there as well. 2004, we have New Spring for our Wheel of Time, because we're still publishing Wheel of Time. And Trader's Knot, in Words of Light and Shadow, came out as well. I tell you, it kills me that I wasn't reading Janie Wirtz over the years as it came out, but it is, I got into it at a good time where the series is almost done. I don't have to wait like I did for Wheel of Time or some other series. 2005 is A Knife of Dreams, which, you know what, I am going to grab, because Knife of Dreams is probably my favorite Wheel of Time book. I love this one. So I'll grab it. Coming strong after Crossroads of Twilight. And also, In the Ruins, we're almost done with both of these series. Wheel of Time takes a little longer to be done, though. 2006, we had some strong ones, which partially also one of the things that made me think about this is there was a disagreement about when The Lives of Locke Lamora was published in the live stream we were doing this weekend, which it was 2006, and I have... My copy of that is not on these shelves, because I haven't... It's a weird size. I used to have mass market, and I have the little hardcover. But that came out. The last book in Crown of Stars came out. And this was the publishing of Mistborn. Originally came out in this year as well. So that was 2006. 2007 gave us Storm Fortress, which I thought would be easier to get out than it was when sitting. Storm Fortress by Janie Wirtz. I'm messing up my shelves by pulling all these books out, which is why I'm debating on how many I should pull out or not, but there it is. 2008, I went with the Wormling Horde, which is the second to last Rune Lords book that was out. Honestly, I thought I was going to have to use more Rune Lords, but by the time I got to this as my series, I'd already filled in a lot of gaps with other series as well. 2009, we finally got the Gathering Storm, the Wheel of Time version. Also was the year that Warbreaker came out. Any excuse to get out the fancy ones, but Warbreaker was also that year, but that was actually my first Sanderson book, because it came out before the Gathering Storm, and I wanted to try out that book. I guess I felt like that had been out longer, but I know it was new at the time. Then 2010 gets us Towers of Midnight, the Second to Last Wheel of Time book, and the Way of Kings. And then 2011 gets us Initiate's Trial, which is the 8th or 9th book, depending on which way you do it, for Words of Light and Shadow. And this is the part I was talking about, The Crippled God, which I feel like... I guess I felt like I felt like Mel's happened slightly earlier than it actually did. But no. So Crippled God, 2011 as well. Then 2012, which was actually... There were some of these newer years I didn't have a ton, but 2012, King of Thorns fit the bill as well for one that I've read. And you'll see here, I picked books that I've read for every single one of these at this point, so we haven't had a book that I haven't actually read since 1983, which makes it sound like I've read a lot, more than I have. But 2013 is A Memory of Light, which we're not going to get down, but that's up there as well. Final book in the Wheel of Time. 2014 is Words of Radiance, right here as well. You guys all know what that looks like. 2015 went with a couple of good options. Ruin, which is my favorite book in Faithful and the Fallen. And also, although I still really need to continue the series, Blood Song, which was an excellent book in the first series by Anthony Ryan. I really need to finish. I know everybody says the next two aren't as good, but I just need to actually read it, because I also have a ton of Anthony Ryan. He's one of those authors I really do need to get to this year. 2016, I had various options here, but what I actually ended up picking for 2016, which for some reason I'm not finding, even though I know it's on the shelf. Okay, I don't know. I must have taken it off the shelf when I was reading it and not put it back. But I do have it. I swear, The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu. Is it over there? I really want to find out now. Okay, I don't know. There's even a spot for it right where it goes. So I must have put it on like the overflow shelf and not put it back here, but I still kept that book. So I do want it. I swear. You just have to trust me on this one. We've been through 50 years of books at this point. You just have to trust me on this one. 2017 is Destiny's Conflict, the second to last and last out right now, Book of Words of Light and Shadow, and Oathbringer by Sanderson. Also, once again, weird to think of the fact that, and like obviously I know the last book is coming out of this series, but it's just we've been talking about that for a while. It's a long series, so interesting. 2018 was actually a weirdly hard year. So if there's some books that I definitely need to read from 2018, let me know, because that was strangely hard to find. But King and Cobwebs, the last book in the Durand series, which it never really got named, but they called it The Tales of Durand when this came out, which is really good, really underrated series. A fun one to do. I might have to do a buddy read for it at some point. But that one came out in 2018, which was 10 years after book 2, which is part of the reason why probably more people don't know about it. 2019 was, interestingly enough, the conclusion to both Lightbringer with The Burning Light and to The Light of All That Falls, the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington, which is also, like, I feel like that came out longer ago too, because that's a series that I just read a lot closer to release than I realized at the time, because they came out close together and I started it toward the end. But anyway, we're getting there. 2020, we have the Rhythm of War, finishing out Stormlight for now, and then We Men of Ash and Shadow I picked because this was one that just I really, really enjoyed. That actually came out in 2020. 2021, I went with Project Hail Mary, which is an excellent book and one I very much enjoy. And also, that was Jade Legacy, which is by far my favorite book out of this trilogy. And the reason I like the trilogy is Jade Legacy in general, because I loved Jade Legacy with it. In 2022, picked a couple of self-help books that I absolutely love, including An End to Sorrow by Michael R. Fletcher and Bone Shroud by Andrew D. Meredith. Absolutely love both of these. We're going to put these aside for now. I've been trying to put some back as I go, so it's not a total disaster here. 2023 also is one that I have a couple of really good options here that were really, really easy, because I don't usually read a ton of new releases, but Lord of a Shattered Land, which I've been trying to get more people to read, absolutely loved it, and then I do have to say, I loved Will of the Many. I know everyone knows about Will of the Many, most people have tried it, most people love it. I finally found recently some people who don't, which makes me feel better about it, because like, there have to be people who don't like a book. There's nothing that's universally liked, and so it was just like, it was weirdly bothering me that I'm like, someone has to not like Will of the Many. So lately I've heard from several people that were just like, it was fine, or it wasn't for me. And I feel like all is right with the world now, even though I did love it. But yeah, Lord of a Shattered Land and Will of the Many, both fantastic, and recommend. Although I feel like most people probably haven't read Lord of a Shattered Land. But many have read Will of the Many. So for there. So there's 2023. And then, of course, for 2024, the year has started. But the book I chose is also the book that is one of my most anticipated releases of all time, if not my most anticipated release of all time. The only thing that competes is A Memory of Light, of course, is Song of the Mysteries, the final book in the Wars of Light and Shadow by Janie Wirtz, is coming out here in May. I was about to say April, but it's not, it's May. Coming out toward the end of May, is available to pre-order. I pre-ordered it the second it was available to get my copy. Cannot wait. Absolutely cannot wait. So that definitely, I'm preemptively make the 2024 book And I think that's fair, and I think that works. Going to be published here in 2024. But that's it. That is 60 years. 61 technically, but 60 sounds so much better. So 60 years of books going through, and like I said, the 90s and then into the early 2000s. Definitely my niche of so much stuff that I loved. But I was a little surprised by how easily I was able to get through the 80s. And most of the 70s, and then the 60s, we had one series take care of most of that for us. But so a lot of stuff there. Apparently, I do need to get a copy of Shogun and or something from 1974. Maybe I'll go with like a Michael Crichton book. He had it somewhere around there, I think. So I need to still fill in a couple of gaps there. But otherwise, there are some that I still need to read books from. But I have some for all of those years, so I was pretty happy with how that turned out. Going through. This was really fun. Like I said, feel free to steal this if you want. I would love to see other people do this, and I hope if you've made it to the end here that you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed doing this, because I thought this was a really interesting exercise in just thinking about when books came out. And like I said, for me, seeing so many of my favorite series that were publishing around the same time, because, not thinking about the fact that you literally have Wars of Light and Shadow and Wheel of Time and Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, and so many of these things that are series that I love all publishing around the same time is crazy and really cool to think about. So that's it, though. This is already really long, so I'm not going to keep talking any longer, but make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books. Are there any of these books, other books, really anything at all? It's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. Of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.